That was the music of Elisapie, sung in her native language, Inuktitut. The singer-songwriter joins us in the studio to tell us more about making music in 3 languages and about documenting her home community in Quebec's northernmost reaches. Elisapie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Now, I wondered if I could ask you to introduce yourself in your native tongue and not in English.
Elisapie aisivunga saluit nunavimi nitsalutatik Inuk.
Thank you very much. Now, that was Inuktitut, which you write your music in, as well as in French and in English. For me, it was fascinating to hear music in a language that I didn't understand. But beyond the linguistic dimension, how would you define the sound of where you come from, that landscape, the frozen north?
It's always hard to describe your own way of expressing yourself, but I guess, we have to understand, like, music, traditional music was more throat singing, 2 women making rhythm together, and I think in the 60s, 70s, slowly we got to hear amazing music, like American folk music. So we were very much singer-songwriters. And I think when you're from a very vast, place, like where I'm from, where it's a lot of horizon, a lot of, also Inuit are not many in this huge territory. So we feel like we're this tiny little thing in this universe. So there's a vision, there's a way of seeing life that's very different. So I think that's foremost our biggest influence musically.
Now, your recent record, which is your 4th album, is called The Ballad of the Runaway Girl. Now, I wondered if that girl was you, and if so, what are you running from and where are you running to?
I guess I've realized after being in Montreal for so long and being away from family and, again, the territory where I grew up, I kind of had to do a big cleanup, I guess, and I realized that I had a lot of things that I was carrying without knowing that I had to kind of let go. And in order to do that, I had to kind of start from the beginning of my life, as a adopted child, as a person who left the North, this very special place where I'm from. I kind of realized that it's so easy to run away, not necessarily run away and leave a certain place, but also emotionally. I think humans are we're very good at that, I think, when we don't want to face something. So I realized, okay, this may be my story, but it's also other people's story.
Well, indeed, let's get a taste of that story and a track from the album. This is called Arnaque. Now, I wanted to bring up one of the tracks on the album, Una, which talks about your own mother, who was raised in the Inuit community in Inuit, like you two. And she faced a difficult moment when you were born. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, difficult moment, I guess we could see it as a difficult moment, but when you think of our traditions and our culture, it was a very natural thing to do. She got pregnant with me. I was her 4th child. And that's when she had to make a decision because of her mother, who had decided that I was to be adopted. The baby she was carrying was to be adopted to another person, a couple who couldn't have kids. So it's sort of a survival mode tradition where I'm from. And also, I think if you think about how we view our children. They are not your possession. They are children that you're going to, bring into this world, but with a lot of openness about like family and community. So there's something very beautiful and magical, but yet it is still sad in a way if you think about a baby leaving the mother. I have children, and that's when I realized, okay, so how did she feel when she had to give me up? So that's what I needed to know, which was bizarre because we don't ever really raise those questions.
I wanted,
it's
to
just
ask that.
natural for us. A lot of people I know are adopted. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of just let it out and express those feelings in a song. So it's a very personal song, yeah.
And as you say, this is a strong part of traditions in your community. And as a mother yourself, how are you transmitting your Inuit culture?
I have to be honest. I live in this environment that's so different from. I think you kind of have to just be living there in order to really transmit something, because it's not just about you alone transmitting something to your kids, and it's something you have to live as a community. You have to be there. I think more and more I realize there are occasions where we could be in that environment, where we could go be in a rhythm where my kids are among kids, and it's very free, and I think that's an element that's very, very important in order to understand who Inuit are.
Now, as well as the music, you're also involved in making documentaries which bear witness to the Inuit way of life. Now, your 2003 film, If the Weather Permits, was shot in Nunavik, the northern part of the province of Quebec. That's a place bordered by the sea, which resembles the ceiling of the world in a way. Let's take a look at this clip where you evoke your grandfather's life.
Opened up between the elders and youth. Before white people arrived, your life may have been harder, Ito, but it was your life. You wasted nothing of the animals you killed. Oil, fat, meat, skin, blood, everything was useful and precious. It's not the same anymore. We forget we were born of the blood you drew your strength from. How do we handle this legacy, which blends tradition with the gifts from white people? What remains of Inuk pride?
Now, what's so striking about that film, I found, was the very strong link these people have with the land, with natural elements, with the weather. And that obviously was impacted by the arrival of European settlers. How do you see the consequences of how that's playing out in First Nation communities?
Oh, it's only now that we realize things were done in a way that was so violent, it's in a matter of 50 years, things shifted like this, and Inuit felt like they had no say, first of all, which is totally ridiculous because we're still in the land, we're still and we were semi-nomads, and we would move according to the season. So that's very much part of, of how we live, and our spirituality, everything goes around that. So imagine being told that you have to settle in this area from now on because your kids have to go to school. Of course, later on sent to residential schools where they are told they are not worth much, as native people. So a lot of people lost their language because they were, told not to speak their language. We're trying to fix a lot of things. There's a lot of cleaning up that we're doing because our parents were no longer couldn't express because they felt they were just numb. So I think as the first generation who's able to speak, when we do speak, it's like almost puking emotions. That's just the image I have, and I think it's super important what's going on right now because we're finally realizing that we are allowed to speak. But it's not true that we are quiet people. We are very proud, and I think it's a lot of young people are realizing, okay, so what the hell happened in the last 50 years in order for us to feel this, heaviness. And yeah.
Now, we're going to wrap up the show with some more of your music, and the song Ikayunya has already travelled from Canada to the stage here in Europe, but I believe it's gone even further than that. It's actually gone beyond our planet.
Mm-hmm.
How was that?
Oh, that's quite something. There's an amazing astronaut who decided to make a playlist. And not only did he decide to make a playlist, but he also took a few elements with him and traveled. He took, I think there was feather, a native feather. I know he had an ivory ring. So it's very precious that he's trying to acknowledge the first peoples, take a little bit of those elements. So yeah, one of my songs traveled with him. So it's beautiful. I was very moved by that.
Far from our mortal realm here. Well, Elisapie, thanks so much for joining us today. We'll wrap up the show with an a cappella rendition of Ikayunya. Do remember to check out our website for more arts and culture, and you can keep up with us on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 straight after this. Elisapie, take it away.
Asiu Raman Ungasi Tumun Rengo Gama Naluli Rama Ikayo Taulaula Nga Ilaniun Ito O Hausit Satora Rengo Gama Naluli Rama Ikayo Tau